Hello, my fellow kin. Welcome back to the channel. Bringing you part one of our Detachment Deep Dive series. And you may notice I'm joined today by a very, very special guest, of course, the Chthonian miner himself, Tim Schneider. Tim, how are you doing today?
Hello, hello. I'm fine. Thank you. And you, how are you, mate?
Good, good,
Mate,
good.
mate.
Thank you. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good.
English.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I speak English and I can't even pronounce words and say them sometimes. If you were watching the live stream yesterday, or I guess last week, whenever this airs, you'll know that I couldn't even remember what the word diorama was, and I was stuck on it for 5 minutes. It's been a busy period of time, I think, for everybody in like the gaming sphere, competitively, from the content creation sphere. It's just like nonstop thinking and working and involvement for the new
I mean, new
codex.
codex, new
Yeah,
detachments, everything. So right now is the time you had like 2 years where you could basically, I mean, not two, but like 1.5, you could do nothing.
yeah.
And now we have the time, basically.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, really excited to kick this one off. Tim is joining me today because we are doing, like I said, the first of our detachment deep dive videos. So each week we're going to be releasing another deep dive video with a very special guest that will join us to talk about what the detachment brings for them, what gets them really excited, some nice combos, stratagem reviews, things like that. And then to wrap the video up, we're gonna be sharing two different lists with you guys. So one that I've made, and then one that the guest has made as well. So it should be really exciting, and hope you guys enjoy this one. But of course, a massive thank you to all of our amazing channel members whose ongoing support help make these videos possible. Thank you guys so much. It really does mean a lot. All right, so first up we have the Delve Assault Shift Detachment, the Berserk Swarm, as I like to call it. And just so you guys have a little bit of a heads up at the end of this video, Tim is going to have a very special announcement to share with everybody. So stick around for that as well, on top of the list review that we're going to be doing. Very exciting. So we're going to kind of do like a two-parter here where we talk first about the detachment and then kind of about the thought process behind deciphering a new codex, I guess we could say. And then on that note, some really helpful tools, in my opinion, that Tim will be able to share with you guys to kickstart your journey into the codex. All right, so kicking things off, Delve Assault Shift. The detachment ability here is very straightforward. We love to see it. Berserks gain Deep Strike, Berserks gain Battle Line. So pretty small, but pretty big implications. You essentially can run a big swarm of Berserks, and critically, they could come down from Deep Strike anywhere on the board, so you're not limited to strat reserves on the sides. The playstyle here, in my opinion, is one that's going to be a little bit more melee pressure focused, of course, and really changing the playstyle up from what we're used to seeing with Votann, I would say. And generally, what it feels like after seeing a few games as well, it's kind of fast for a dwarf. Like, we could move pretty quickly. Tim, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Like, we are going from, I would say, more of a controlling the board state with shooting like army, where we say we bunker us down in our fortress here and we will just chill out and try to go for like sneaky plays a bit with Jaeger spot deny something here, or we maybe go with a Terminator Rapid Ingress somewhere, but most likely our army is be more static. So we are a super dynamic and fast moving army now that still has this kind of and basically build a fortress somewhere, but more like with melee pressure. But now has the ability to actually, especially with the deep strike ability and also with the ability to get advance and charge, to be nearly everywhere on the board. And the enemy actually needs to think a lot about, okay, where can he be? And if he just ignores it, it can happen that your berserks will stay in a spot on the home base or whatever, where the enemy just cannot deal with them anymore.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's well said. We're going to talk about this a little bit more with the stratagems, but there are ways that you can get ridiculous movement out of your dwarves, out of your specifically the berserks, who hit like a truck. And have a lot of tools to help extend their reach even beyond the actual activation that they're having in combat. So really interesting. I think generally the trend we're seeing here is that the codex has become a lot more full of different tools and tricks rather than just being like, okay, here's your very efficient at killing things. So now we have actually like a toolkit to help leverage and really make our opponent think twice about a lot of different plays. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the enhancements. So I'll walk us through the first one here. So Delve Work Navigator. So this one here is in the reinforcement step of your movement phase. You select one Berserk unit that's visible to the bearer. You spend any amount of yield points and you get to resurrect a model. But for every 2 additional yield points you spent, you resurrect another model in that unit. And there's no cap, it's unlimited. So this is very powerful right out the gate for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it allows you to dump your infinity points, as Tim has famously coined, because you get them so quickly. And one of the challenges is actually stopping yourself from accruing them. I know GW probably thought it'd be like, oh, they're going to be working hard to build them up. No, you're actually working harder to get rid of them in a lot of instances. So this is really powerful just for that ability alone. And then in addition to that, obviously you get to resurrect models, which is very powerful. And because it takes place at the reinforcement step of your movement phase, there are a lot of different implications with that as well for like threatening. If your opponent's trying to threaten Overwatch, for example, in 2 different areas of the board, he has to think twice about like the 3-man Berserk unit that's going to fall back out of combat. Like, does he risk it? Are you going to resurrect him? You could position yourself with the model that carries the enhancement to actually get line of sight. Unlike historically with the Cal, who had to sit there for a turn out in the open pointing at something, you now have agency to actually control when you're going to resurrect. So Tim, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, basically, it's probably the best enhancement we have in our whole book, or at least on the same level, the +1 to wound and we're 1 to wound. But maybe even better because like the use case is so much wider. Like in the end, what does it say? It says that for the first skill point you spend, you get 1 berserk, and for extra 2 addition, you get another one. What are berserks? They are basically a 20-point model. Because this is how they are priced. Are they 20 points worth? We could argue about that, but this is not a video place for now. But in the end, it basically says that each turn you can get like 3 to 4, like depending a bit how much yield points you have and which doctrine you want to stay in, you can get like 3 to 4 models back. So this is each turn 60 to 80 points that you have in addition. Now, first turn you will probably not resurrect because don't yield points and no real fighting. But after turn 2, so can add the math quickly up. So we have about 240 points we can play in addition with, what is actually really great. Of course, there are some things that needs to go good to use this enhancement as well, because the character needs to survive and everything, but overall, it just gives the enemy like such a hard time to actually kill Berserk units. Don't say, okay, then 3 of these guys will survive, I don't care. And especially like units that are nearly died can now be nearly resurrected completely back up, what is amazing for like 1 or 2 turns.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Just you're recouping the cost of arguably a very expensive unit, maybe a little overcosted, but anyway, you get to recoup the cost of that. You get more bodies on the table, and it gives your opponent something to think about. So this is basically an auto include if you're looking to run the detachment. Next up, we have multi-wave system jammer. You want to walk us through this one, Tim?
Of course. So the multi-wave system jammer basically says once per battle in your movement phase, you can target 1 berserk unit and it can basically then 1 deep strike. That's it. Little fun fact here, I would say if the wording is correct, that you can still use your Earthsakers to come like turn 2 in the backline of the enemy if you ever want to do that. Who knows? But yeah, it's like overall just a little cute thing to have to actually force your opponent to do something. I mean, I don't want to say stupid things, but like to say, hey, my friend, do you really want to give me a 9 here? Do you really don't want like to screen your whole backfield out? Or on the other side, just be able to get into a good staging position to one already without spending a hackathon or something to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very powerful. You always have the option to just threaten your opponent and saying, hey, if you disrespect me and don't screen everything out, I'm going to fit a really tiny 5-man Berserk unit in somewhere with Deep Strike, and that's going to cause problems for you. So I think it's a really cool one to have. It's only 10 points, which makes it really appealing, in my opinion. So probably going to be on the lookout to try to fit this one in your list as well, if possible. Next up, we have Quake Supervisor. So Quake Supervisor, they can't all be good. So this one here, it gives a model lone op if it's within 3 inches of an artillery piece. This is just for the viewers' knowledge. This is the second time we kind of filmed through this because I forgot to share the actual slides with Tim, and he was so polite he didn't want to tell me that he wasn't seeing them until we made it like halfway through. But the first time we saw this one and read it together, we were having a nice laugh because it's so unlikely that you will be in a situation where you can have your artillery where you want them to be and a guy who's like 3 inches close to it, also sticking out and visible to the target he wants to shoot at. And then only one artillery is going to probably benefit from this, if at all. It just doesn't really feel good to use. It's a bit expensive also, and I think the other options are significantly better in terms of play and use. Tim, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, like this is probably the worst enhancement I have nearly ever thought. I mean, it's kind of funny that you get your lone op on the artillery, but in the end, artillery most of the times is on your backfield, so not really helping there.
Yeah.
And besides that, the +1 that you need to see things like the key of artillery is that it stays behind somewhere and
Yeah.
shoots long range into something. If the whole board, of course, is flat, then it would help, but then I can probably see everything already. So,
Yeah.
like, bit of how for what do you need it? Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Doesn't really feel like it has a good use. Next up, we have an interesting one. So this is Pile Driver. This is cool because you essentially pick a character model that has the enhancement, obviously. You spend up to 2 yield points, and then you add the amount of yield points you spend to the damage characteristic of the melee weapons it's equipped with. So very suddenly, your E-Champ can walk around with a D6 plus 3 damage hammer or a damage 4 axe. That's kind of nice. It's I think this is going to be one of the situations where can you fit all of this in a list? Probably not because things feel a little bit expensive right now for Votann, but I definitely could see a use case for wanting to include this enhancement just to beef up the melee output of a unit to damage 4, which is a critical threshold to have, of course. Tim, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, 100%. Like if you have the points, if you can make it on each champion, go for it all the time. It really helps you just to say, okay, here I have my little guy, can do a lot of damage. It also helps you burn yield points. What in this attachment isn't that hard of a problem to be fair, but just have it. It's overall a really nice enhancement. I would probably love it if it wouldn't be like. I mean, nah, you can't really change it. It's just good how it is. That's it. Like.
Yeah, yeah.
It just feels like we have 2 enhancements we already want, and I'm always feeling like Votann has like a bit of point problem if you want to take a third one, especially because the only character it can take is the champion, and he once again is more like a one-hit wonder, and
Yeah.
then this one-hit wonder gets even more expensive.
Yeah.
What can hurt?
Yeah, I think this is part of a larger discussion about kind of like the points with the Codex, which we'll touch on a little bit towards the end of the video. It's especially relevant to Tim's announcement, I think. But it always kind of feels like for myself anyway, when I'm building lists, there's like, okay, I need these things, you need these things, you put them in, and then you have so few points left over to put in oh, this would be nice to have. It just doesn't really fit. You did mention something that was interesting when we were talking about this yesterday about potentially putting this on an Iron Master, which I thought was really cute because I didn't think about that. But if you are running an Iron Master because you have like double forts, for example, you could beef up this melee output quite a bit as well. I think it was damage 5, you said, which is
Yes, it's
pretty
damage
funny.
5 then with anti-vehicle tree up, so
Yeah,
you can actually go start around and hitting like tanks quite good. But
yeah,
yeah, it's like there's ways to you can use this on more than once, but like overall it feels more like you said, like these things where you say would be nice to have, but if I really need to cut down things, it would probably still be the first one I need to cut down.
exactly, exactly. Okay, so next up we enter the stratagems. So I'll walk us through the first one here. Cyber Stim Infusion for 1 CP. Takes place in the fight phase. You target a berserk unit specifically, and you reroll wound rolls of 1. Optionally, you could spend 2 yield points, and then you get to reroll all your wound rolls. This is like the best strat that you're going to be using every single time you commit a berserk unit in this detachment. It like regardless of your loadout, it's going to allow you to just punch up or punch down more effectively, and it really just lets you optimize your damage output by quite a bit. Usually if you're strength 7, you're going to be wounding infantry on 3s or on 2s even in some cases, so you punch down pretty hard. If you're swinging into something that's of a higher toughness level, you actually get to have a more comparable output to that of taking like hammers, for example, versus the vehicles. So the axe becomes a lot more appealing as well. And then for the hammers, it lets you play both into vehicles and into infantry as well because you will be strength 5, but now if you're hitting something that's around like toughness 5, toughness 4, toughness 6, you just get a lot more output that goes through. Tim, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's the one that we need to actually enable berserks basically, because the problem we have with them is most of the times they will hit. They can best case hit on trees. A lot of times will only hit on fours. Then they will wound if they are in the right target on trees, but like half the time you will not be in the right target.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times feel like you will wound more on fours or even five.
Yeah.
And just like this wound reroll helps you to get a better consistency. And we talked about it before. With the wound rerolls, the berserks actually coming close to better, like the old berserks from the damage output. Because on the old squads, you had like your 32 attacks. So let's say you have a token and +1 to wound. You would in the end still make your 32 attacks. You get your 16 hits. Your 21 hits. And then they will wound on twos, most likely, because they have strength 9. Or they will wound on fours. There's something between. So let's say they wound on twos. So you get to something about 18 to 17 wounds,
Yeah.
plus minus. And if you now go for the axle, if they have +1 to hit, then you have like once again your 20 hits, and then they're wounding on trees with like the wound re-rolling. You get like to your 14 wounds in the first row, and then you get from the 6 4 in addition. So 18 to 18, kind of even.
Yeah.
Of course, the +1 is a bit harder to get. The +1, but overall, especially now against vehicles where they get like the wounding on trees, they are better. And the wound rerolls make it a bit more consistently in terms of sometimes you just have a bad roll. It happens. Like I saw it with this bird attachment way too often now, but happens. And the wound rerolls help you to at least get this consistency a bit more up. And
Yeah.
even not the ideal targets, with the wound rerolls you're kind of fine, because wounding 2 times on 5s still helps you to get like at least a third and a third through. So basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
nearly the same output.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and like you said, we got to see this. For those of you who are interested in actually seeing this in action, Tim actually just recently played versus David from 40K Fireside on a live stream on TTS, so you can watch 2 games where he's running this detachment, and you're essentially always using this strat every time you commit a unit of berserks,
Yes,
and you get to
every
see
time.
really the
Yes.
value come out of it. So I'll put a link to that in the description below if those of you who missed it this week or last week, depending on when the video comes out, of course. Okay, next up we have Unstoppable Force. Tim, you want to walk us through this one and why you think
Of
it's great?
course. Of course. So, Unstoppable Force basically says every unit in your army, like you can pick any of them, vehicle, character, the player, whatever, and he gets 6 in pile and consolidate. And this is pretty huge. Like, it's once again a question, like, how familiar you are with the melee, how it works and everything.
Yeah.
But just having the abilities, let's say you have like a long range charge you both want to go, and like they were standing in like a big line behind it. Now you roll like your 7, and it will only bring like 4 or 5 to fight, even with the pile. Oh, cool, now I pile 6, now I can jump straight forward. Or on the other side, I killed something. Okay, now I consolidate 6 into every direction and take like 4 models, or I just jumping back on the marker because I just fought something outside, and 3 wouldn't be enough to get back, but 6 are. It, like, the use case is so big, and especially if you put it on things like a hackathon example, where you say, okay, I drive forward, I tank shock now something, now I activate a 6 in pile, and now I'm on the other point where the enemy was before, like, I only need to screen the marker out like 3 inches.
Yeah.
Now I need to screen them out like to 6 inches, what is, I
Yeah.
won't say impossible, but it's a lot harder. And once again, it's 1 CP, so you can use this quite some time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think another really interesting aspect about this that I actually learned from watching one of your videos, which we'll talk about again at the end of the video, but was that the actual threat range you have with this is just ludicrous. Like if you set yourself up after you stage turn 1 somewhere in the middle ruin, you can reach not only extremely reliably your opponent's expansion, but you could actually threaten their home. And if they are not accounting for the fact that you have a 6-inch pile and a consolidate, you could tag several things in their backfield, hit whatever screen's in front, tag all their vehicles behind it, get on their objective marker. It's crazy. It could really take people by surprise. And I think something else that's interesting that you touched on is I agree completely. I think this stratagem and a lot of the strats here in this detachment get better the more comfortable you are with the rules around engagement in the game, in the fight phase. And that's kind of like, maybe this is a wider discussion for the end of the video as well, but I've noticed a lot with this book now is, I would say with Index, when we had the Index, the army rewarded you from having a good understanding of the fundamentals of playing 40k.
Yes, the core rules
The
basically.
core rules, yeah. And now here it feels like it's taken that more like macro approach and it's gotten really micro with each phase of the game as well. Like you need to know to get the best amount of value, you have to understand like how you could leverage these neat little tiny little tricks to optimize use of your strats. Because there's different levels to them, right? Like on the most basic case, you get to fight a little bit close. Everybody gets to pile in and reach with a 10-man unit. That's like the most basic level. And then, you might not know, like, hey, okay, I could actually consolidate away behind the wall so I'm not shootable anymore because everybody's going to get closer to the objective. Or you could string yourself out inside of like your charge so that like you wrap certain things, which I think again you showed brilliantly on your live stream where you played with David. You were kind of like pre-measuring everything and going back and forth to like just make sure you could position your charge in such a way that you could then tag a couple other elements in your opponent's list. So it really rewards you for having a core understanding of these little micro stages in the game. Okay, next up we have Augmented Assault for 1 CP. This is a banger of a strat. This is really, really good. So in your movement phase, you pick a Berserk unit, you spend up to 2 yield points, and you add that amount of yield points you spend to the movement characteristic of the unit, and you gain advance in charge. So you get 2 buffs basically. It's 1 CP, you get 2 buffs. It's amazing. We love that. And of course, like with all these great strats, you're going to be saying, oh my God, how do I pay all of this? If only there was a way, if only there was a character you could bring that reduces the cost by 1, letting you use several of them in one burst. So, yeah, very good. It lets you get a significant amount of reach, which I'll let Tim talk about if he wants to give an example of just how far you could push it coming out of something like a land fortress that's staged in the middle, for example. But just generally extremely powerful. Advance in charge is always great. Gaining extra movement on top of that, your 6-inch move berserks go up to 8-inch movement. It's great. It's really, really powerful.
Yes, 100%. I mean, just for like some comparison, so you go like 9 out of a hackathon. This is the min, like finally normal space marine movement. But then with this strat, we will at least 3 in addition, so we will get a min 12. And because we will be most of the times in the first doctrine, so we get like the advanced rolls for free. Yeah. It's more likely that we go like 4 than 3 on average. So on average, we will now go 9 out plus 2, we're 11 plus 4, so 15 out is the average for a berserk unit out of hackathon, then it can still charge. Yeah. And this is like, we're basically like with the old berserks, we're like if I'm standing on 17 away, or then I'm basically, 70, 18 was something like the point where people start to be like, I'm safe here if you want to actually bring them out and roll the 10, 9 or 10 in charge. I'm happy if you do it happens. And now you're like, cool, man, you give me a 2-inch base charge, so add to this number additional 8 or something, because in the end, with the reroll, it's not unlikely that a 6 can happen. Yeah. And then it gets even better and ridiculous, especially with the charge rerolls as well for free.
Yeah, like one of the most challenging parts about pre-measuring is accounting for, oh, you have advance in charge, like, okay, I got to be a little bit safer than I usually would be because of that variable distance with the advance. Now you have to keep in mind that the army rerolls advances and rerolls charges. Like your reach is just
and 6-inch pile.
Yeah, and 6-inch pile in. It's like that reach is insane. It's absolutely crazy. So this is definitely something you need to be also using as frequently as possible inside of the detachment for sure. Then we have Tectonic Fracture. So Tectonic Fracture is really interesting. So this is just another bonus for the Earthshaker unit that I know a lot of people seem to be down on, but personally, I was a big advocate for them. I thought it filled a really nice role in the army as well, and I'm curious to hear Tim's thoughts on it as well while we talk about this stratagem here. But essentially, in the shooting phase, you pick an Earthshaker unit, you target one unit you shot, and it gets -2 movement. Optionally, you could also spend 2 yield points, and then it's -2 to move and charge. So you essentially get what the Berserks had on their indirect variant in Index, which was the -2 to move and charge, or movement -2 to move, advance and charge. It's a bit worse, obviously, because there's no advance penalty, but still, you get the -2 to move and charge. But you have it on demand. You don't have to roll a dice for it. It's consistent and it's predictable for yourself, which is really, really important. I can't tell you how many times I'd play a game and like it does matter quite a bit. when it's like, oh man, like this would be big if I roll a 4 up here and you don't get your +4 essentially movement this turn. And then you fail it, and it's like, man, I would pay a CP to have this consistent, and now you do. It's awesome. It's amazing. So Tim, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think it's also one of the sleepers in the detachment where people are just need to realize a bit more about how movement and how important it is, especially because it can target monsters and vehicles as well.
That's big.
So just like, for example, a tank that with the 8-inch movement now cannot go on both lines, or you can just say, okay, I
Yeah.
just need to measure if your tank moves 8 forward, where it could stand, and there's like a ton of things where it works. And it's just overall, just the ability to say to your enemy, hey, I can do that, will stop maybe his rapid ingress from the death throats, will maybe stop like other things. Or like even for like warp talents that come down that normally would always reach something, he now needs to think about, okay, I can only move 10 and I have -2 to the charge. So can I still reach nearly everything? Yes, but it starts to hurt. And
Yeah.
it starts like movement debuffs are always nice because this is something how you can change where your enemy will be and you can control it.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you do connect your Earthshaker with it, you pop the strat, they have to take a battle
Yes.
shock test. Maybe they fail, and then they can't reroll the charge. They can't reroll the advance. Like, it's good. It's genuinely very good to have. So I'm a big advocate still for the Earthshaker unit, and I think this strat's very helpful as well. All right, Tim, you want to walk us through this
Yes.
one before I
Of
massacre
course,
the
with
name?
for the We Werker Butres or something. I don't know. Who the fuck cares how you can say it? This is basically for your whole army, okay, infantry unit. In shooting phase, you get a flat -1 to wound. And this, my friends, is amazing.
Yeah.
Berserk toughness 6, -1 to wound, nearly everything. But that is like small to middle fire range. Like weapons, wound you on 6s now.
Yeah.
You have some steel jacks, wounding on 6s, get wounded on 6s now.
Yeah.
You have a character that's low now. Guess what? Gets wounded on 5s or 6s depending on the weapon. So there's like really some ways how you can use this for your advantage, and especially in combination with I can revive Berserk. It starts like before the enemy was like, okay, I will shoot like my 2 predators, or I don't know, I have my 40 shots bolters here because I play Grey Knights and everybody has a bolt. I will shoot the Berserk, and they will kill like 8 or something, or like I don't care, like so much chip weapon damage, or like
Yeah.
Hawks from Eldari, and now you say, you know what, my friend, -1 to wound, you only wound me on 6s now, and if you let like 3 to 4 live, or even 2, so even 1 is enough in the end, I will get like 3 to 4 back, and you once again have a problem to deal with next turn.
Yeah, I think like one of the craziest parts about this, two of them actually, is that first of all, there's no restriction of if the strength is higher than the toughness, right? So it's just -1 to wound. You were wounding me on
Yes.
5s, now you wound me on 6. That is That's better than what you get in Fortify for the buff. It's really good. It
Yes.
rewards you for being in hostile, which is where you want to be anyway in this detachment largely, and it's for the whole phase. So it's not just one activation like AOC. It's actually like every unit shooting at that. So things like Steel Jacks, right, that have like toughness 6, 3 wounds, 2 up save. If you want to just set 6 of them down on your on your natural expansion, while like you're applying all that melee pressure with your berserks, and your opponent's like, okay, I'm going to throw this predator into them. Good luck. You're -1 to wound for everything that's shooting at them. You probably won't pick them up anymore because it skews the math so badly. So this is a really powerful tool to have as well, and another one you're going to be looking to spend your CP on for sure. Okay, we then have... Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Oh yeah, sorry, totally. We have the hidden access ways, and this basically says, end of your opponent's fight phase, 1 CP, Berserk unit or Jäger unit can go back in reserve. It's for Berserk mostly meant. It's just that you can basically have a unit somewhere standing, that is ready to Rorik or do something, and after that it can do some place shit, whatever. It's just really good to have overall. For 1 CP that the enemy needs to screen for like 5 turns always helps.
Yeah, for sure. And like you pointed out yesterday when we were talking about it, this allows you to essentially get another unit that could deep strike turn 1 theoretically if you were going second. So on your turn, you have like a unit on the board. Your opponent's turn, fight phase, you pick it up, and then on your turn you could come down again because it circumvents the rules around the deep strike since it didn't start the game in reserves.
You mean it the other way around, but yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Enemy started, you pick them up,
yes,
and then
you
turn
come
1
down.
can take it out. Yes.
Yes. And I think something else that I really liked here, which I learned from watching your video, which again we'll talk about at the end here as well, is just being able to threaten reliably that heroic intervention piece, right? Like you have this unit there on the board, and it's like, okay, if you don't want to interact with me, you don't want to charge because you're scared of the heroic, that's fine. I'm going back into reserves. Pick them up again, and they're gone. So you just get a lot of value out of this strat as well, just because there's no more downside to keeping something on the board, and then because you have access to deep strike across your army now for the berserks, picking them up is sometimes actually very helpful to have, because then you just keep them there as the threat. They didn't take the bait, you pick them up again, and then you get to run it back. So I think that's really, really nice. Okay, so let's talk about some key takeaways from this detachment here, and I'll add a little ribbon at the bottom for some other thoughts as we talk through it, because I did think of something that I thought would be interesting to get Tim's thoughts on. But anyway, so it seems like this really this detachment really facilitates and promotes like an aggressive play pattern with your berserks. Like you're always going to be trying to apply that melee pressure and pushing and getting board space. So board space on that note is very important for your rapid ingress threats. And then of course there's a big emphasis on berserks. The strat suite allows you to basically punch up into everything. It improves your consistency across the board with the wound rerolls. And I think in terms of like one of the limitations is that you need an answer for screens and for opponent strats, like melee stratagems, for example, like defensive ones like armor, contempt, things like that. So for me, I feel like this doubles down on the Earthshaker having value here, as you could basically reliably blow up a screen and then also have a chance to disable their strats like fight on death, like for Black Templars or for Custodes, armor contempt for Marines, and it just gives you a lot more value out of your berserk pieces when the game gets scrappy between melee armies, as you could definitely watch in Tim's live stream, where we see all of this like in real time. Tim, do you have any other thoughts on like key takeaways from the detachment?
Yes, I would probably say overall what you could add is like that you can basically attack everywhere, and this gives you like a strange way of complete map control. Because you are not there, but you're threatening that you could be there. And this is probably enough for a lot of enemies to just say, I'm not sure, should I stay here, should I stay there, what could I
Yeah.
do here? And this helps.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that's pretty solid here. Are there? So my question, I guess, for you is, do you see any? Because I forgot to mention this at the start, or maybe I did. I don't remember. But I haven't yet tried this detachment out because I don't have the berserks for what I think is probably around the optimal number to play with. So this is for me strictly like a theoretical takeaway of the detachment, whereas Tim has a ton of games, a ton of reps with it. So I think he has, I mean, as of yesterday, he was 10 times my number of reps. And I think overnight he went up 5 times my number of reps, crazily. So for Tim, it's more of a practical insight on this, and I'm taking more of a theoretical approach. So Tim, I guess my question is, can you think of any limitations with this detachment? So the one that comes out to me is you get more value out of having a solid understanding of how the fight phase works. That to me is like the biggest thing. If you come into this and you're not super experienced or comfortable with it, I think you will struggle a lot more getting value out of your pieces versus someone who is familiar with how that phase works and maximizing the value out of
Yes,
your units.
I think one point is definitely that you can be a little more psycho on the plate. To tell you how basically you can always tell your enemy, my friend, I could go here for the 9-inch if I deep strike. Do you want to do the math? It's like all damage free. You can do like some mind tricks, and in the end, I would always as well go for like some big things that you can say, okay, I can deep strike my Zorks. You know what? I would just stay behind this wall so that it cannot be shot. Now it's 11 charge into you. If it happens, it happens. In the end, it's like rolling 2 times for free.
Yeah.
So will it happen? Unlikely, but also not zero. And this really helps you basically to get a bit around in the game. And even if I don't want to say it, I would say the detachment is also like a lot of Votann detachments right now are a bit based on luck. Like in the end, it's still a melee detachment. So if we don't hit our charge roll, our damage will not connect. That's it. It helps that we have rerolls everywhere, but sometimes you reroll the 3 into a 2 or something like
Yeah.
that. and then it will start to really hurt, and this is where it also has like a downside completely.
Yeah.
But it is how it is. Like at one point, you need to rely a bit on, I will make the longer transfer, I will roll a 6 or 7 now. If it doesn't happen with the reroll, it happens, then you can say, good game, my friend, that's it, or hoping the enemy rolls bad as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think that's well said. So with that done, the key takeaways, an overview of the detachment, the enhancements, the strats, let's talk to you guys about our 2 lists that we have for you.
Oh, I didn't see you there, lad. If you're a hard-working dwarf like me, then you're probably always on the lookout for a really good Warhammer miniature deal. That's why I'm thrilled to announce the sponsor of today's video, Secondhand Geek. Secondhand Geek is a US-based second-hand miniature marketplace, operating predominantly between the US and Canada. They offer a secure, reputable, reliable, and community-driven platform that allows you to buy and sell used minis. If you're looking to expand your Votann roster or even get started with a brand new army, Secondhand Miniature is the place to be. Consider checking them out using my affiliate link down in the description below. It lets the company know that you found their website through me and gives me a small kickback at no added cost to yourself, so I could buy more miniatures as well. With that said, let's get back to work.
All right, everybody, so jumping in with the 2 lists, we'll start with the one I've made for you guys today, just from a strictly theoretical perspective, and then we'll look at Tim's practical approach as well, and see where things differ. So kicking things off, I have Uthar the Destined. He's an auto-include. There's not much else to say about him. He reduces your strat cost. You'll see him in every single list, as every other content creator has shared so far. Every single list, you take Uthar to start your list off. I then went...
Improved.
Yeah, yeah, Uthar the Goated. I then went ahead and brought a Broke Your Iron Master with the Delvework Navigator enhancement. So one of the things for me, after kind of like looking at Tim play as well, is that I do think it's crucial that the Iron Master carries this enhancement. Or there's another option, which you could take him on like a Memnir, but the Memnir should be attached to something that has like survivability, like maybe the Steeljacks, like on your natural expansion. But anyway, in this case, I opted for the Iron Master to hold this, so he gets the lone op benefit. I then wanted to change it up a little bit from Tim, so I went with an Ioneer Champion, taking the Pile Driver and the Darkstar Axe. With Marines everywhere, I figured this guy's pretty decent at picking up at least a few of them in the squad and threatening to damage 4 flat, which is kind of really nice, to be honest with you. He does the Mortals on the charge as well, on average 2 there. So he does actually start to pack a little bit of a punch, and it just gives you more melee threat pieces in your list. We then have a Memnir who's going to sit back on our home. He's going to do some manipulation to the yield points, and he has the multi-wave system jammer for 10 points to kind of threaten the uppy-downy, no, not the uppy-downy, sorry, the turn 1 deep strike, or like coming in from reserves a turn earlier. Yes. I then opted for 10, 20, 35 Berserks, which again seems to kind of be the number people are gravitating towards right now at the moment. For my split here, I went with 15 Plasma Axes and then 20 of the Concussion Mauls, because Knights are still quite rampant, unfortunately, so you do need the Mauls. And then, of course, you could benefit from that reroll wound stratagem here to punch up with the axes into different targets, or just become more consistent with the Mauls as well. I then went for 2x2 Earthshakers. I had initially put 3 Earthshakers, but they're quite expensive, truth be told, in terms of fitting other things in the list. So just because of how the points lined up, I had to drop it down to 2. Otherwise, I would be trying to bring 3 in. I then went for something a little bit crazy here. So I took actually 30 Jaegers and 3 Carriers. I thought that the Carriers are pretty nice in this detachment because you dish out the -1 to hit, which works in melee because it lasts for the whole turn, which means you have access to -1 to hit, -1 to wound for a strat. And something else that I thought was interesting was the ability to threaten denying your opponent's overwatches. So you charge like a carrier in theoretically first, and then you wrap in with the berserks to swing, and then they're pretty safe because they only have 1 wound. They're quite vulnerable if you can't attack from a staging point. And then of course you just have more bodies to help move block and control where people are kind of coming, like punching back from. And of course it just buys you a little bit more board space. I then ended up going with a single Hecaton land fortress. So 2, I think, is probably nice, as we'll see with Tim's list. But I just ended up going with a single one to threaten with the Magna Rail cannon, just so opponents have to respect you a little bit. I've had a land fortress when I played the mirror matchup. One land fort killed another land fort because it had the Magna. So I mean, like, hey, like, it happens. So just having that threatening piece for your opponent to respect is always important. And then that takes our list up to 1990. So it kind of covers what we mentioned for the key takeaways. You have melee pressure, you have board space, you have the indirect to help take care of screens and to help mitigate against your opponent's defensive strats, and then you have the carriers to help control a little bit more of your opponent's output and clog up space on the board for move blocks, and also just tag things so that they have to use like fallback strats there and things like that. Overall, I think this, from a theoretical perspective, is a good starting point. Let's jump over to Tim's.
Yes, and now let's go with my, I would say, a bit more violent approach. So once again, we have Uther, Tim approved, Matt approved, every Votann player approved, I would say. Then we have the Iron Master still, like same goes, well, basically what you said, like it's just a really good piece to have. I personally like a more list with like 2 hackathons, you'll see by me,
Yeah.
but just like the trick that you can build like long conga lines and be like still stealthy, build like lone up, just helps overall. And then we have the Mimir with the same enhancement as you have for like the deep turn 1 deep strike possibility. I have it more like on because I had the points. If I could change it, I would change it, but right now I don't see anything there. And then we have once again our 35 berserks. I go with the same split. What I will add to mine is now basically every big squad and also the small squad will have like 1 pair of fists or 2.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's like if you do some math, like they will come out the same or even better a lot of time, because it's like more attacks. And what I saw, like in a lot of games, is now Marines are something you need to look around for, and having to say, okay, I first have like these 8 attacks that always have twin linked, that have like strength 9, so they will wound on 2 still. Like they will kill Marines better all the time. And with that, it gives us a bit more ability to have like the damage 3 weapons in, and in the end, if things die first, you can probably always look around, okay, if I play against Custodes now, I don't want to have the fist, or I want to have whatever. It's just like a nice little extra to add there, and probably also a nice little extra from Games Workshop, because hey, now we need to build a fist, what probably nobody has ever done because they were all the time so bad.
Yep. What was bad is now good. What is good is now bad.
Jumping from this point onward, I have like still 2 Earthshakers like you have. I only have 2 times 10 Jaegers. I like the idea to put like 3 times Jaegers inside, and like then also 3 times the carrier. I would probably would go down from like having 30 Jaegers to like 20 and then put another carrier in. Because like I feel the infiltration can be nice, we don't need to talk about it, but a lot of times now it just doesn't feel that good. On the other side, then you will have like this one game against knights or then something else we want to play, so probably ignore what I want to say, whatever. So for my list, I have 2 hackathons with the beam, with the Magna Ray gun, because I feel like 1 hackathon will never be respected from the enemy. With 2, you can have a bit more pressure and also a bit more shooting ability, especially against armies where like killing hackathons can be quite tough.
Yeah.
It helps you a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
But don't be like surprised. Don't think like over the old hackathons, these guys will die. These guys are not tanky as they were before. Like if the enemy has something decent, like Marines with Gladius, or basically against every matchup I now played, they die much faster. Like not having AOC really hurts.
Yeah, for sure. And then even having AOC, but it's restricted to the second
2 or 3,
doctrine.
yes.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's totally valid. I 100% see the value in having 2 forts. That's always been a starting point, I think, for many of the other lists. And I know people are even toying around with 3 forts for many of the detachments as well, especially on GW terrain.
Like what
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say, what I probably think about this whole thing, like what I have as one idea as well, is like I'm thinking about killing the 5-man squad of Berserk, because it's nice to have, but it feels a lot of times just, I don't want to say useless because this always hurts my little guys, but the 5-man squads are really unreliable, and even killing like a 5-man squad anywhere. And I'm thinking about changing it to a 3-man squad of Thunderkin.
Oh.
that you can, with bolt guns, that you can now say, okay, my 2 hackathons have, now don't want to say decent shooting, but now I have shooting that can be respected, and we know that the hackathons with the ignore cover get a much bigger buff in shooting.
Yeah.
But this brings you like down to 40 points on the list, so then you probably kill like the enhancement on the Mimir and get a second Mimir in. What could also be a play, what I'm thinking right now if I will do that, but yeah, just some little side notes here.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think it's cool that you touched upon the bolter for the 3-man Thunderkin unit. I'll talk about this more when we do our need guard analysis video, because that's the one where I have most experience playing with. But I do actually think that there's a ton of value in having the 3-mans with the bolters if you do run 3-mans. Just coming in from like the side somewhere and your opponent's screening you out easily, and having that extra reach instead is significantly more impactful. You could even probably start them somewhere on the board if you really wanted to because of that extra reach as well. So it's a little bit more versatile to strip cover if that's like their dedicated role. Totally. So there you guys have it, 2 different lists. And with that said, let's jump into Tim's announcement and talking a little bit about part 2, which is kind of like deciphering the new codex. All right, everybody. So the second part here that I want to talk about is kind of this idea about deciphering the codex. And as you can see here on the screen, the massive big announcement, which is that Mr. Tim has created his first masterclass. Now, I had the privilege of watching the masterclass, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it, and I thought it would work really well in kind of like the nature of the conversation that we're going to be having about what our approach is to kind of deciphering a new codex. This is the first codex I ever play with since I started playing like a year ago, so for me, this was a big challenge, and I think, and I'll share why I think the masterclass was actually extremely helpful for me as somebody who watched it after having first jumped into the Codex and trying to get some test games in. So I guess like to kick the conversation off, like for me, honestly, what I thought was challenging was sort of like finding, you start somewhere with what you think the army does really well and what it no longer does well. And I think from there, it's kind of like just theory crafting and like putting different things in the list and seeing, okay, like I've substituted the, you know, the cons with what I think would help alleviate it or like make it better, enhance it. And then picking like a detachment that for me personally, I started with Need Guard because I said, hey, it's closest to what Index was for my event that I had only 1 week to prep for and lock a list in before prepping. So I thought, hey, I'll just start with that. And what got worse, what got better? I was kind of really down on a lot of the damage output was my initial thought. And I think something that everybody kind of had when we were looking at the Codex leaks right out the gate. And so I had made what I thought was kind of like a good entry point, and I was breaking my head kind of playing all these games. And then after kind of doing 6 or 7 games, including the event itself, and losing 6 out of 7 of them, basically, I felt really discouraged. But I think one of the things that was really impactful and important was I walked away from those games having an idea of where I should start from going forward. Like filling in, like, okay, this worked, this did not work, I need more of this, I need less of that. And the big problem, I think, for someone like myself was not knowing if that was the right decision to make or where I should be progressing towards. So it took a lot of games before I was able to kind of reach an actual foundational level. And Tim had reached out to me to talk about like, hey, like if I was interested in promoting his masterclass and talking about it. And he gave me access to actually viewing it, which was very kind of him. And after watching it, and I can give my genuine opinion on it, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It's what I would look for in a masterclass in terms of just getting you started and not having to break your head with what would be a foundational place to begin at. And the funny thing is that like had I watched this first, I think I would have locked in a different list and I would have had a better time, and then I could have built from that foundational block to tweak it in terms of what my local meta was, to tweak it in terms of what I wanted more of or less of in a list. And having to have played those 7 games horribly, and then seeing like, oh, I wish I had this, or I think this is the direction you go in, and then watching Tim's video and seeing him say, hey, I played 35 games at this point, and this is where I think you should start with. And it's like, huh, yeah, like that's the same thing that I ended up reaching. I wish I just saw this first, and it would have saved me a lot of time and a headache. So I think there's a ton of value in that. So Tim, I guess kind of like we're jumping around a little bit here, but I thought it was important to weave this in. Like, where's your mind at with kind of like jumping into a new book? Like, what are you kind of looking at doing, and how did that influence your decision for like your masterclass?
Yeah, so like for me, it basically like I started because for me, of course, it was one of the first codecs I ever looked into. So I'm still quite new to 40k in the end, at least to competitive overall, 40k probably as well. And for me, the first thing where I started was okay. I see what the meta is right now, in my opinion, and I looked out okay which units we have because I think always like we see it in so many lists over all the time the crucial part here is you see a good data sheet, you take it 3 times.
Hmm.
This is what knights were doing. This is what custodians don't have as a data sheet, but like this is what black tankers are doing right now. This is what marines mostly are like doing. Like everybody is looking, okay, what are your core data sheets you want to use? And if you have found them, and as example for Votann, one of them or two of them are the Jaegers and the Carrier as example, and another one probably is Uther, and
Hmm.
another one is probably like Hackathon. We could argue about it, but like this is some crucial parts, and then you see, okay, if I have these crucial parts, what do I have left, and what can I do with it? And then this is the point where I next jump a bit more into the detachments. Of course, first like try to understand a bit of the army rule, and I would love to say try to don't look into the codex without like having your head some up or down, because honestly, I had like a lot of different opinions about everything at first. Like when I see the leaks, I was like, I am not sure. Then when I got to Codex, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, amazing. I looked a bit deeper, and I was, not amazing. And right now I'm back to, it's quite cool. Like we need something here, we need something there, and we probably need like a bit more reps to see how some things will actually work. And let's wait the data slate. But like we are definitely not that. We are not in the position we were before. We don't need to talk about it, but we are also not like down or something that hard, in my opinion, right now. And this is probably the best approach that I had. And then like I looked into the first things where it sounded cool. Like example, I looked okay, cool. The index attachment basically is all the same. The threads were amazing. And this is the next thing I've done basically is I just looked at the detachments for the threads. Just seeing okay, what are the enhanced and what are the threads. And I had like a little document you could say where basically said like a good enhancement gives like +5 points, a good thread gives plus
Hmm.
10 points or something. And then I just looked up in terms of point value, in my opinion, what would be the ranking. Then I started just there.
Okay.
And this is how I started there. It wasn't that easy because in the end, I think we have okayish to bad data sheets, but we have amazing to broken stratagems.
Yeah.
Say it like that.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of these threads on like Space Marine units or something would be completely broken.
Yeah.
Uh, And from this point onward, I basically I played, because then I looked into, okay, what do I want to play? Like, where do I have like my most experience? Or maybe where do I also have my most fun on it? Because in the end, this is still a game. We don't need to talk about it. We are here. We want to win. We play competitive, no matter what. But this is still like we are not on a level where we are like some baseball players or football players or whatever that get like billions and billions just to do the same thing all over again. Like we are all, I want to say little nerds. We are
Yeah.
nerds, not little. We are nerds. It's cool now because nerds are cool now. That play a game and we have fun on it, and we have fun on throwing dice. We have fun on doing the math a bit, and other people maybe not. But like for me, it was also really crucial because a lot of people also asked me, "Hey Tim, do you even have fun anymore if you play like 4.5 years the same list?" And for me, it was all the time fun because it was all the time a new challenge that could get me there. But like here, it was at one point, okay, I now want to start with something completely different. That's why I started with like the with like the prospect detachment because it felt so completely different from what we
Yeah.
were expecting before in the Delve. And this is something I would say also helps you a lot in terms of staying on course to get your final detachment, final list, whatever. Sometimes just break everything open. Sometimes just play something completely different. And also, even if everybody says Earth Guard is bad, Earth
Hmm.
Shakers are bad, Don't believe them.
Yeah.
Try to do your own list. Try them. It's like what will you lose in the end if you play like 3-4 games and you
Yeah.
see they are never perform? Okay, then they may be nothing for you. Maybe they're actually bad. But just because, even if I say something in the end, because I want just pointed out, I was a bit shocked when I looked into the one of the Discord. One man was basically writing there, Tim Schneider said Votann was bad, so I stopped playing them. I was like, geez, man, geez, like. I'm happy if you like if I'm happy if you want to hear me and like in my advice and so, but like never let someone else advise you that you shouldn't play something like completely. Of course, like
Yeah.
if a good player advising you you should do this or this is the combination that you're looking for, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But like I was quite shocked that I saw that like my words, maybe also my words that were not so thoughtful, have such a big impact on people that are saying I want to quit or stop playing this.
Yeah. I think you touched on a couple really, really key things. The first one is it's a sandbox, it's a new book, right? Like you need to experiment, you need to try things out. And by testing them, that's how you figure out what is good and what is maybe not so great. And I think you said something really important, which is like, just if you think something is worth trying, just try it, right? Like the only thing you lose is like time, right? If you can only play like once a week, let's say for example, and sure, maybe you want to wait to find what somebody else has solved for you, but and that is kind of what the masterclass does, right? Essentially, it's like
Yes.
you've played so many games that you could say like this kind of felt much better than this, and what I really like is, and I'll explain it a bit after, is you explain why you think something is really good, which is what I think really important when you're trying to teach and explain something to someone. But I think that's absolutely critical, is that you're going to hear a lot of things from people saying like, oh, like this sucks. Like a lot of big content creators, a lot of big names in like the Votann field, they're going to say, oh, like this is bad or this is really good, swear by it, like, you know, don't do anything else. If you do, you're wrong. And I wish that I trusted my own intuition when I was looking to make my first list for the event I attended, because there were things that I said when I was doing the Codex review, like Earthshakers to me were an incredible data sheet to have for the army, right? Like on their own, they're like whatever, but in Votann specifically, when you consider what we lost and what we now need to do, I thought they were great. And I wish I had brought them, because in so many of my games, it was like, this could have actually helped significantly if I had the option to pick up this screen without exposing a land fortress for it because I had so little shooting. Or, you know, if people were like, oh my God, Steeljacks are amazing, you take 36 of them, and then like I took 18 and I was like, it doesn't feel good, but like everybody's saying it's great, like I'll just try it. And then it's like, okay, it takes an overcommit to kill, but now I can't kill anything back that overcommitted to kill me. So I think like, you know, it's important to try things out. And I think more importantly, the takeaway is like, just trust yourself as a player to actually like play with the things that interest you and that you want to get a feel for. And then going into why I think Tim's masterclass was really helpful is that element of it. Like Tim has, well, at this point, over 60 games played with the Codex already, right? And I have 7. So, you know, like, and it's all with one detachment. So it's like, it helped for me to kind of speed run to a point where it's like, okay, this will be the first thing I try now. And it'll save me the 7 games of getting to the point where I say, oh, okay, this probably is a little bit more optimal, or this kind of didn't really feel good. So I thought that was incredibly valuable. And then the other thing that I was alluding to was what I really liked inside of your video, and I wish more people did more of, was explaining the logic behind your choices. It wasn't just like, if you want this, you play this. This is the best list. Like, copy this. It's like you actually explain the reasoning behind your choices, and you showcase on TTS even like some instances of how can you actually use this tool. Instead of saying like, oh, this is great for primary play, it's like, how? Like, why is this great for primary play? And you show it, which I think is really helpful for people who are more visual learners. So it's like it says here, it's 5 hours of content. It's long, and you show everything you need to kind of like kickstart your journey into the different detachments and codexes. So I think that was really well done. What was it like, Tim, working with David on this? Because I know, like David, for example, he doesn't really play Votann, and I thought that made the dynamic a lot more interesting because it became more of like 2 top level players kind of having a like tutorial lesson on like the army, which I thought was really fascinating as well. Like having David ask you these questions from like a top level perspective. So what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so big shout out to David here. It was like an amazing experience. I mean, of course, for me it was the first time doing this as well. So I was a bit lucky to have him on my side that he like gives some tips and tricks, and also how can you explain something new, or how can you show this here and there. And it feels really nice because you had like someone that has zero ideas of Votann.
Yeah.
And we also had like some games, like one of the two, or you can even see on streams, and he started to understand more and more of the army. And I think this was a really good like example of, okay, if you just especially if you're a good player, or let's not even say good player, if you are someone that has a good understanding of the game, like with this information, that brings you to the point where you can like quite good understand how everything works, and also how these things like you can play against, as example.
Yeah.
And this is just overall really good to have. And this basically also, I think, what you mentioned before was my final was like my final thing that I want to achieve with this whole thing, that people, I can show each one of them like the basic build, I would say, for like each attachment, or like my experience I have, and from this point onward you can go in the approach you want to play and the meta you want to go, and like the layouts you play. If it's more shooty, go this. If it's more melee, go that. If you feel like this is better, if you feel like that is better, it's all the time. But it's not like, it's basically like the what I basically had before, where I was famous for. I have this one list. This is the non plus ultra. Everybody plays something else.
Yeah.
Same. No, we are not there anymore. Like maybe we'll come there once back then with no data sets. Who knows? But I would say right now is just, it helps you, especially if you don't have the time. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have the time to play like 6 games a week or something.
Yeah.
It saves you the time, and it gives you, like you said, really good insights there. And I'm hoping to actually like that for people overall. It helps them just to get better with Votann, so we can finally get this win rate more up. Like
Yes.
I'm tired of Germany carrying it.
Yes, like Tim famously said in our end of an era, you could be the next Tim Schneider. You know, you just have to,
Yes.
you just have to crack it, man. So yeah, I think that's great. So kind of just like recapping what it offers: 5 hours of like guides, basically. I would say it's a guide on like jumping into each detachment, showcasing different lists, showcasing on TTS like what the best kind of use cases for combos and strats are, and explaining your logic behind why you reached a certain place with the list. Like why are things included, and that to me was very validating because, like I said, when I was making my list and I was kind of like having my doubts and like, oh, everybody's saying this thing is bad. I thought it was good. I'm not going to bring it because nobody wants me to bring it, so I'm going to bring something else instead. And then like after playing the game and it's like, I wish I had this because of this reason. And then I watched your video and it's like, yeah, I brought this because of this reason. It's like, I should have done that. So I thought that was really nice.
Thinking the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's validating. You know, it's like, you know, you're not a crazy person saying like Earth Shakers are good and that you need to have some kind of utility in your list. So
My friend, when I first started playing my team, my whole team was basically like, "You're a Luniac for playing Votann." No. And at one point I was allowed, and now it once again goes back to, okay, Tim, if you want to play Votann on the highest level, you need to show this. And I'm like, oh no, not this again. more the funny approach, of course. But
yeah. Have you
in the
not
end, I
proved
think
it already?
yes, basically, but this basically hits the hammer on the nail there. So it's like, just, I mean, right now we are basically in the pioneer era, so you can try a lot of things out. I think we already have like some amazing people that work in the community. Like I try my best as well to like give some more insights, also probably about the masterclass if you like have questions or some things will change later. So I will try to give like answers everywhere and answer things. But I think, and this is probably also one of the bigger things here, this masterclass will not get that hard outdated with like do updates in the meta or whatever, because it still goes really down onto the basics. So as long as we don't get like a rewrite on detachment or even Codex,
Yeah.
nothing major will change there.
Yeah.
And this is probably also something that you can at least hold up, because I think a lot of masterclasses, or not saying a lot of masters, but I think the problem is like with some coaching and like some videos, how to do this, how to do that, it's always, okay, is this video 6 months out? Okay, it doesn't matter anymore because the detachment is not there anymore, the threat is not there, the points, whatever. And of course, this will happen here too. Like I don't want to play without that. Like this will be that until the end of the whole day. But this will, I would say, at least give you a good overview for at least 6 months to the end of the edition, something like that. I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was great, and I really appreciated the back and forth questions and answers between you and David. I thought you did a great job explaining everything, and kind of like you said, it's a good like kickstart to save you those 7 to 10 games of each detachment to find like, okay, this is where I should start, like, and then explaining the logic behind the choices. So, if people want to find the masterclass, they want to support Tim for making it, you can find that over on the 40K Fireside website. And then here I also put, again, just a reminder that Tim has his own YouTube channel, so you could find that as well for Zugzwang, which Tim broke down for me what that meant a little bit before we went live again. So, yeah, do you want to add anything else, Tim, to this?
No, nothing beside. Like basically, I am happy with the if this helps everybody. If you think, okay, I need this or I want to support, I'm always grateful that you have some. Of course, support Matt as well because I think he's an amazing YouTuber in terms for the voting community and helps a lot there. Also
Thanks, man.
bringing like all together.
Thank you.
And nothing more I can add here basically.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. So, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this first deep dive into the detachment with our special guest, Tim. If you're interested in checking out the masterclass, I fully endorse it. I thought it was extremely valuable, and you can find that over on 40kfireside.com. So, thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you so much, Tim, for coming on. And I'll catch you guys all in the next one, which is probably going to be Need Guard next week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll
Interesting.
catch you all in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.